560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. I wouldn't call this breaking news, but I would call it breaking scuttlebutt. A alert listener called in earlier in the program and asked if, per this press conference, Tim Walz, Field Marshal Tim, he's the guy that fully supports the First Amendment, except if you say something he finds distasteful. Then he doesn't. That Field Marshal Tim Walz has a press conference today and was wondering if he's stepping down. He's not going to run again in 26 for governor. And I suggested that I would be skeptical of that unless he thought he was going to be indicted per this federal investigation into the systemic welfare system fraud in Minnesota. And the reporting now is, or the rumor now is, and this is from a very reliable source, is that Walz is going to announce he is not running for re-election. That Senator Amy Klobuchar, the dynamic Amy Klobuchar, Minnesota nice, she is going to run for governor. She is midterm in her Senate seat, so she doesn't have to give up her Senate seat. If she wins, then she'll be governor and she can appoint her replacement. All nice and tidy. So that's the rumor that's out there. And it's strictly surprising to me because they find Tim Walz do the DFL. Boy, I'll tell you how bad you have to be for the DFL in Minnesota to say, you're really off the rails. Apparently, Tim Walz bad because the belief is that he has become too much of a liability politically to continue on, and so they're pressing him out of the race the same way they pressed the big guy out of the race in 24 to make way for Kamala and Walz. Oh, boomerang. So we'll see if that's how it plays out. But of course, the larger issue is not the political future of Tim Walz, because who cares other than celebrating that he doesn't have one? It's the systemic corruption. There has been some action taken. I mentioned earlier in the program when we discussed this, of course, we have now FBI and Homeland Security agents on the ground following up, not just on Nick Shirley's guerrilla reporting, but on reporting, frankly, that should have been followed up on long ago, because it's a decade worth of reporting from local network affiliates to independent journalists like Nick Shirley to even present day quote-unquote cable news journalists like Rick McHugh over at News Nation. The clips we played you of his site visits to assisted living facilities, alleged, to home health care businesses, alleged. Action taken at the federal level. Deputy Secretary at Health and Human Services announced over the holidays they have frozen all child care payments to the state of Minnesota. We are also doing a comprehensive audit of all the centers that received a combination of state and federal money, they said. They launched a dedicated fraud reporting hotline and email address at childcare.gov. We have turned off the money spigot. We're finding the fraud, says DHS. Kelly Loeffler over at SBA, Small Business Administration. Our agency took action to suspend 6,900 Minnesota borrowers amid suspected fraudulent activity. In total, these borrowers were approved for 7,900 PPL and EIDL loans worth approximately $400 million. They're going to be banned from all SBA loan programs, including disaster loans going forward. We'll refer every case where appropriate to federal law enforcement for prosecution. Look, at the state level, particularly in failed states like Minnesota or Illinois or California, New York, there should be calls for auditing every agency that is involved in transfer payments, not to mention every driver's license facility that's involved in conferring commercial driver's licenses. Systemic fraud. Our friend Alex Berenson wrote about this over the holidays, and he really hit the mark. His piece resonated with me. I commented on it, and I'll share my comments in our discussion. But we're pleased now to be joined by Alex Berenson.
Hey.
And, of course, I'll give you your proper props. Make sure if people haven't signed up for your Substack or bought your book, they do. Author of Pandemia, How Coronavirus Hysteria Took Over Our Government Rights, Lives, and Government Rights and Lives. His Substack, Unreported Truths. That's where I read his piece. alexberenson.substack.com, Unreported Truths. Alex, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, thanks for having me.
So the point that you made, which I think is the big one, is that the big fraud is the Medicaid program writ large.
Yes. And particularly, I think it's in every state, but particularly in blue states where there's sort of very wide eligibility and very wide kinds of programs that are allowed. And in fact, in New York, and I believe in Minnesota and in a number of other states, the Biden administration has expanded what are called 1115 waivers, which are social determinants of health, meaning Medicaid will now, they'll pay for you to have better food because, food is an important part of health, or they'll pay for you, in some cases, even have housing because, housing is an important part of health. So this expands Medicaid to a sort of a true welfare program doing everything except direct income support.
Gym memberships, that's an important part of health.
No, it is. It is. I mean, listen, you can at least understand what they're doing, but at least theoretically, but the impact is to turn Medicaid into a full body program.
Yes. Well, it's what your piece reminded me of, and this is something that even most Illinoisans don't know or don't recall. But it reminded me going back to the Blagojevich era when the entire country was about him selling the Senate seat, right? Selling Barack Obama's Senate seat. I've got this thing and it's effing golden. But if you remember his impeachment, because he was impeached and removed from office in addition to, of course, being convicted of federal corruption charges. One of the reasons he was impeached because he illegally, sort of unilaterally expanded the state's Medicaid program. He was trying to make Medicaid a middle-class entitlement to get more people on the Medicaid dole long before it was all the rage among the left. And so the sanctuary state, and now fast forward to the sanctuary state era under Pritzker and blue state governors, to your point, and these guys make Blago look like a piker by comparison.
Yes, absolutely. And when you combine it with sanctuary state, and the other big one in blue states in particular is the home health aid program, where you can get paid to take care of your grandmother, right? When you add all of this up, it becomes giant. Not billion, but closer to the hundreds of billions of dollars of income transfer, essentially. And here's the thing: like, if that's what the United States wants, if we want sort of universal basic income and a giant welfare state and AFDC back, then let the Democrats propose that, right? Let's have a debate about that. What they've done is kind of backdoor all this stuff.
Right. Well, they know they can't sell it on its merits, so they have to use sleight of hand, and sleight of rhetoric, and that's what they do.
Yes. And so in some ways, it's almost unfair to blame Minnesota or Walz because they're just doing what the entire Democratic Party wants them to do.
Well, right. Although, like if you're a co-conspirator and a fraud, even if you're in public office, then you share the blame. I mean, it's basically a criminal conspiracy, and it really is when you have, like I mentioned, Minnesota just being sort of center stage right now. You have all of this reporting from outlets you can't just dismiss as conservative. Right. For a decade. And so it was willful blindness. You have upwards of 200 state employees, probably mostly not MAGA supporters, that open letter putting this all on Tim Walz. I mean,
that's right.
That's a lot.
That's right. No, I mean, you're right. I shouldn't say we shouldn't blame Tim Wolf. It's almost like I think I said this at the end of one of the pieces last week. We shouldn't blame the Somalis, right? Like when you walk people into a room filled with money and walk out and say, "Hey, don't touch any of that money." So some of those people are going to take some money.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, it is stunning that that I think the liberal and sort of legacy media has had no choice at this point but to actually start to look at it. But for a very long time, they really weren't willing to.
Yeah. Maybe if I was still domiciled in Illinois, I could get my Pilates lessons like half off. If there's some kind of enrollment program. I'm just thinking, I just want to get cut in like everybody else, Alex.
Well, yes, but you joke, but I think you make a good point, which is, and this is true I will say on the Republican side, this is true when you don't have any tax enforcement. Okay, when you set it up where nobody has to pay taxes unless they do so voluntarily, and then on the Democratic side, you set up this stuff where people can just steal from the government with both hands. People who play by the rules eventually start to feel like fools.
Yes,
and that's not a good place for the country to be.
We were just talking about that, sort of my campaign moniker when I ran 16 years ago now. Illinois isn't broken, it's fixed. And then the comments by this young Brazilian woman online that went viral after Musk reposted it, talking exactly about that. It's almost a humiliation ritual, and you feel like, okay, this is I either drop out of civil society and just eke out an existence, or I try to curry favor with the political elite, so so as she said, I cheat the system before it cheats me. That's right.
And I think the Biden administration, did make this worse, right? Things like, they sort of almost had an intentionality of, we're going to open the border, we're going to encourage people to come, we're going to set up these programs and encourage essentially people to steal from them.
Yes, and we're all going to bask in the warmth of collectivism, as we learned last week.
Oh my God, yes. This is what a large part of the Democratic Party, including young Democrats, want.
And I mean, one of the things that I've been saying for some time is that some place, and I don't know exactly where or when, but someplace there's going to be a surprise. There is going to be a revolt against this. And maybe there were Minnesota DFLers that was fearing it was going to be in Minnesota. It hasn't really happened today, but maybe it's in the offing. They were going to zig when the rest of the nation potentially zags in November for the midterms. Well, I don't know if that's what they were thinking, but do you see that, or do you just see this as sort of a slow, methodical march down this road to serfdom that we're describing?
So, I mean, in the U.S., what you see is people moving, right? You see,
yeah, right,
and so people move from New York to Florida, they move from Illinois to Texas, and so they kind of vote with their feet. But the blue states, at least New York and California, because they're such, New York's a global city, and so they've been able to kind of make up for that, to mask that hollowing out. But I think in Minnesota, or in Illinois in particular, and to a lesser extent in Minnesota, these states that don't have this kind of like top super rich group that they can kind of lean on, will there actually be a point when the state's finances become untenable and there's a revolt? I mean, it seems like Illinois is the closest to having that happen.
Alex Berenson, author of Pandemia, How Coronavirus Hysteria Took Over Our Government, Rights, and Lives. His Substack, Unreported Truths, which you can read and sign up for at alexberenson.substack.com. Alex, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Dan, thanks for having me.
And Alex joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Did you know that most remodeling problems start before construction begins? Unclear plans, uncertain timelines, unexpected costs.